and it's been 4 years now with Microsoft. In Microsoft right now, I think there's a large amount of work which is happening for designing experience in Copilot. Three seminal moments which I have personally experienced. One was web. People ask this question that how is AI going to impact my job, or how should I be leveraging AI as an architect to probably serve a few lakh to probably a million plus people as an industrial designer.
Are these the things that you also look in designers when you're hiring?
Of course, we are looking at how much people have experimented with AI.
Yeah. Groundbreaking.
How's it going, Anant? Welcome to the Groundbreaking.
It's been awesome. Thank you for having me. I think it's a great initiative you guys are running, and the summer's just started.
Anant, if you can introduce yourself to our audience and the kind of stuff you've been doing.
Yeah, I think it's been a fantastic journey. It's been a creative journey for me. Graduating as an architect, and then there's always that curiosity of how much can my creativity or the designs which I create get a larger application. Like how can I see more users using my design was always the curiosity in my mind, which kind of made me look out for something new in spite of practicing for a couple of years as an architect. When I got into industrial design, I studied at NID and did my master's there in industrial design. The early years were spent in, of course, work in Samsonite designing luggage, and then with LG Electronics, where I was doing refrigerators, washing machines, microwaves. I have some great learnings over there. That was the studio which started in India. LG started it for the first time in India. They were largely present in Korea that time. But again, that same, from an opportunity as an architect to probably serve a few lakh people to probably million plus people as an industrial designer, it still made me more curious. What next? What should I do? Yeah. And that's where I landed a job with Human Factors International, where I also did my Human Factors International has this training program where you can become a certified usability analyst. I did that and was working for a couple of years for Motorola, and that was like the era where you had these clamshell phones, Moto Razr.
Best time for design.
Yeah, yes. So both industrial design and then there's the interface also. Those were the unique phones which they had an interface outside as well as inside the phone. So a couple of years there, and then moved to Pune to join a couple of my friends who were running this company called Locus Design. Did lots of work over there, branding, packaging, got to do with some UX also, medical products, consumer products. Glad to say that we worked on the logo for Havells, and that logo has still stayed there for almost more than now 15 years. So that's the journey which continued to happen, and then I joined TCS, one of the largest IT companies that time in India. That was one of the first product ventures of TCS. They were creating product for the small and medium businesses, where it was like in a SaaS model, and we were looking at different domains. So that's where I got an opportunity to build a team from scratch. Literally, we were two designers, and then we kind of scaled up to a design team of almost 35 people across 3 locations in Mumbai, then Delhi and Lucknow. So that's how I think that path in the domain of UX started, where I knew that there's a much larger opportunity to create solutions for a larger audience. Yeah. So which kind of, as I said, from millions it became to probability of 1 billion plus people, where whatever you design can create a difference to their lives, whether it's for their personal needs or for their business needs. So that's what has been continuing. And then I worked with Amdocs in Pune. It was a telecom software company. I worked there for 6.5 years. That was their first studio in India. I was the first person to set this up. That team also was great, good fun, worked across multiple countries on multiple products, UK, Italy, US, Malaysia. Large variety of projects, as well as got a chance to work with folks in Israel, because this company is based out of Israel. Got a chance to travel, learn about the culture. That's another beauty of this profession of you can get to travel, get to know new cultures, get to know new people. Post that, there's always an opportunity, and there's always an opportunity to do something new. But I happened to speak to folks in Microsoft, and then I got that opportunity to join Microsoft, and it's been 4 years now with Microsoft. And of course, as I look back, it's been a long journey of around 24 years, but it's been an exciting journey of solving problems.
Yeah. You've definitely been inspiring a lot of us. What's the kind of work you're doing at Microsoft?
So yeah, in Microsoft right now, I think there's a large amount of work which is happening for designing experience in Copilot. The area where I'm focusing and my team is focusing on is the area of extensibility, where we see that the data sources which Copilot uses to help any user to do their work are not limited to the knowledge or the data which is stored in Microsoft applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, or even Teams. That you usually any business will use some other applications also. You might use Jira, you might use Confluence, you might use Google Drive, for example. So how can all these data sources or the knowledge which is stored in data sources can be leveraged by Copilot for allowing you to do your work on a daily basis? So that's the extensibility part. We call it as a third party extensibility. So the experiences of allowing our end users to go beyond Microsoft's data sources or Microsoft's database and start leveraging third party database and ensure that you don't have to move between surfaces to do your daily work. So those are the experiences which we're working on, where in one surface, which is Copilot, can you get to do your work. Yeah. And you don't need to switch between, neither switch context, neither switch surfaces while doing your daily jobs.
Yeah, from the outside, there's sort of this war that's happening around LLMs. Every other day there's something, one or the other LLM destroying each other. How does it feel from the inside? Is it are you as a collective looking for what's next?
Yeah, of course. I'll say there's been three seminal moments which I have personally, experienced. One was web, like the internet came, and that was the early years in 2000. And then around 2009, you had the mobile coming in, where iPhone was launched. And then now we have AI. So these seminal moments have created an opportunity for, I'm going to say these are from the technology perspective, these have been seminal moments. But they have always, created a significant change in which by which we can do our work, we can do our businesses, the way we live, the way we kind of get information, get entertained, communicate. Everything has changed over a period of time. But these seminal moments have affected that in a massive way. So when you question me about hey, how does that look like for us? Yeah, we're super excited about it, but from the design perspective, I'll say I think we are more and more curious on a daily basis that what's the new thing, what is the new capability each model is now offering, be it coming through OpenAI or be it is coming from Anthropic. We're always curious and we're always eager to try it out and build something new out of that.
Yeah, I mean that's what I've also that's what's also been I'm intrigued about. And how like each model bringing something special, and with the brands like OpenAI, Anthropic, things are just moving with a different pace. Like or every like the Twitter is filled with how people are automating their daily workspaces and their jobs. How much of you, I mean, do you have like is it, I mean, how often do you get a chance to kind of try a new tool, or you think that is it even relevant for us to even because I think every other day there's something new, and I think for the way because Microsoft is one of the biggest company in the world, it might be maybe the way such organizations work are not as fast as maybe a startup moves. Do you think it matters to a huge giants like Microsoft, or doesn't?
Of course, because the evolving technologies are making a difference, because this is where we are, like I meant to say, these are the crossings where people are choosing options that, hey, what should I do and what should I choose? From the enterprise perspective, I think, yes, there are, solutions which different enterprises use in different ways. But when it comes to, for us within Microsoft, to look at all these tools which are available, we get that opportunity to experiment a lot. Again, because of course, like as an individual, if you would want to, start burning tokens, you'll hit a limit after a point of time. But I think for us, we have that liberty to, experiment more, because we get those as, free. And that's where I think the opportunity for us is to, do a bit more, explore a bit more, as well as, go bit more deeper, or probably go across platforms also and test it. Again, for example, not all platforms will be available for us, but whatever is made available within that, I think there's a significant amount of scope for us to experiment more as compared to any individual who would try to experiment with these models to build products or build experience over the or modify the existing experiences. All of that is, I think, a bit different when it comes to when you're working with such an organization. We do get early signs of because there's always you have to be a step ahead of your competition. So we do have certain information which will allow us to stay on top of things and make sure that we are building something which is much better than the competition, or building something which is much more relevant for the business as well as end users.
Yeah, but from the outside, it's I think there's some sort of a people are a little frightened about their next move, like talking about design specifically. A lot of young designers, people who are already into design, and they are kind of confused as to, not confused, maybe a little scared about, maybe it's not, if it's not even a big deal, but like it's the idea of all of this, these tech taking over every day. What do you think is a mindset one should have from the outside?
Yeah, that's a good questions. So, and again, this has been being discussed in many conferences and many places where people ask this question that how is AI going to impact my job, or how should I be leveraging AI. I think what's going to be important is how are you prepared for it, and the best way to be prepared for it is to continuously be curious about it. Curiosity, agency, and quality. These are the three things I think will differentiate any designer to be successful versus somebody who might not be that successful. Showing an agency is so important that how do you take an initiative. I think there are you have today Anthropic or even OpenAI offers you a $20 subscription. I think instead of just using the free subscription, I think you should invest your money now in using these paid models, because those models are much better than the free models. You will be able to use the latest version of it, because that's the significant difference. What got launched in 22 versus what's available in 26, there's a significant difference in the capability of that model. And if you're experimenting with something which is a previous version, it's a lot different. So, for example, you want to build an app which allows you to check the price of a Pepsi 1 liter bottle across Zepto, Blinkit, and Amazon. You can build it way faster probably with the latest model than compared to the previous model, and it will have a much better capabilities. So what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, you should start experimenting a lot. Unless you're experimenting a lot, you'll not understand this change. Unless you don't understand this change, you'll not be able to be on top of it. Unless you're on top of it, you will always stay at the sidelines. And staying at the sidelines is not going to be good for your growth. If you're in the middle of it, trying it on, the best way to be in the middle of it is to experiment, to stay curious and continuously experiment with it, and not at a superficial level like hey, I'll search for some information that give me the best options to watch Dhurandhar, where is it available, and what is the best price at what time, and etc. But go beyond that. What can you build? What are those problems which you have always wanted to solve? I think there's such an amazing opportunity for, as we say, that there are these 1% startups which will probably be the future. And how is that going to be possible is just because there's that capability in this model to allow you to build it. Not only build it end to end, but also build it in a very short amount of time. And that's the beauty of how things were probably a couple of years back versus how they are today. So if you always were sitting there with an idea of starting your own startup or building a solution for some problem which you always thought was a big problem, then that opportunity should be really leveraged by you by leveraging this technology, or rather this opportunity should be taken to leverage this problem. And that's where I think curiosity or agency plays again a big role. That how much are you willing to take that step of experimenting with these models. Because if you are doing that, then probably you're in that smaller percentage of people who know this tech much better than the rest of the people.
So you mentioned about how there's gonna be more one person companies, and I've been reading it all over. There are teams who are maybe just like team of 10, but like making revenues of millions. And other than that, there's this wave of SaaS is dead. AI agents gonna take it over. But in from your POV, from your lenses, do you think all like the enterprises like SAP, for example, or Salesforce, for example, are like it's gonna be that easy to adapt, or like how does it look from your lens?
I think every business has that opportunity to adopt AI and make their products or their services better, and they're doing it in their own ways. I don't see that a particular business or an organization has a bigger advantage or anything. I think it's the way, as I said, the way an individual can look at this opportunity. Business also look at the opportunity in the same way. So I don't think there's that differentiation, but it's at the end of the day that how fast are you able to build it. The opportunity is equal, but how fast you can build it, how much, and again, at the end of the day, it is about the end user experience. Are you, because the moment these models are evolving, how are you actually going to deliver this? So that also becomes superbly important, because today, right now, there's only that one mode of conversation, which is the chat. Like through chat,
Yeah.
people are trying to get through conversations, people are trying to get their jobs done. Is there other ways of finding or getting your jobs done? How can the artificial intelligence help you to do your jobs? So those are the questions I think the tech needs to solve, and that's where again I think the simplest way in which this happens will allow the end users to adopt it much faster, because I think it's going to be important that how much will you enable the end users to unlearn.
Yeah.
How fast you will be able to enable them to unlearn will allow them to learn these new ways of doing their tasks online or their tasks on their devices. That's going to be superbly important.
Yeah. But these conversations are happening.
Yeah. So again, I will say, when I say there's so many conversations which are happening internally, externally, between businesses. When businesses are choosing products, like what should I go with, they are evaluating, because there's also a cost that
Yeah.
when you are using a product which is enriched with AI, there's a cost also attached to it. You will have to pay some amount of fees for using it. And that's also being evaluated by businesses, that what is the most effective way of me spending money and getting the maximum benefit. So the way we kind of search for some product which will be the cheapest, or which will land at my house in the shortest amount of time, similarly businesses are making those decisions, and they will choose. I'm saying this is a place where there's a wider choice as compared to previously, that you would probably have not only ChatGPT today installed on your mobile, but you will have Cloud also installed, you might have Gemini also installed, and you are probably switching between these three to get the best outcome for whatever problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah. I'm using this tool called Open Router.
Uh-huh.
So this is basically it has a library of LLMs, so you can use whatever LLM you want.
Yeah.
And you can just buy credits, which I find interesting. Of course, it has limitation, but I really find it interesting for me to kind of test. And it also has a list of LLMs that are top this week. LLMs for marketing, for coding. I also want to ask you, so from the outside, do you think now designers need to also need to understand the development part, and like, do you think are these roles are kind of transforming into someone who also needs to know the development part of it?
Absolutely. I think designers are no more expected to only work in Figmas. They're supposed to know how the product will actually get built, how the product will actually perform. And once, so we are looking at, like the designers are right now building agents which will look at, finding what are the craft bugs. And if you can find those craft bugs, how can you fix them using another agent? I think that's something which is happening. But while you do this, when there's a bug which is there, you feel that there's an alignment which is not correct for probably a particular screen, like alignment of elements on that screen, then you need to know that what usually it takes to, fix that alignment. If you don't know
Yeah.
that, then the output which the AI will give you will not be able to, you will not be able to tweak with it.
Yeah.
So I think that's another learning. But of course, the way in which you will be able to interact with the model is going to be much more easier than probably actually understanding the code. Through natural language, you can give these inputs and get the job done. So if there's a bug, you can always ask the model to, hey, how do I fix this bug? It'll explain it to you, and they'll ask you permission to, should I fix it, and fix it on your behalf. So I think just merely saying that design, I mean, the design is still in some areas, I feel, in probably in some organizations, some ways, in some conversations, I still feel designers are finding themselves to be on some other planet and rest of the world exists on some other planet.
Yeah.
I think that's no more the case. There are three circles, I think probably a decade back, were distinct, where product management, engineering and design, these were three distinct circles. And probably to a certain extent, like, hey, once the design happens or once the product management gives a requirement, designer will work on it and the designer will develop it, and so on and so forth. So that was like, you would wait for somebody else to do that. Today that's not the case. I'm going to say there is the speed at which you need to develop a product is increasing, or rather shortening, because the speed is higher. That means the development cycle is reducing. So the point from where you get the requirement to you actually launch the product for the people, has shortened a lot, just because of the way AI can help you to do all of this.
Yeah.
So when we come to understand that, then that means these layers also, these three circles are also overlapping each other a lot. You already know what product management does in terms of figuring out what is the roadmap, or you can influence that in a particular way because you can do research and understand that what's the need of the market, or what's the need of a particular domain, and or what has been the feedback for a particular feature which got launched in the previous release. And from there onwards, you can always influence that new feature, or what is the capability in that new feature. Similarly, product management can also tease an idea of that how they would want this feature to behave, or how it could work, how it could can deliver value. They can create those screens, they can create those flows, because creating prototypes is not difficult. It's very easy. You can just ask with natural language, you can ask those inputs and you can get a flow done. Rather, I'll say design system itself was a place where the commoditization of design started, where you are not creating new screens or new elements or components on a daily basis. You are leveraging a common language, and that's where the commoditization started. So again, I'm not saying that it's good or bad, but at the end of the day, I'm saying that these are the three areas which are overlapping a lot. There's no more distinction between that, hey, or you will not say that you can't do this because I'm the owner of this. People can do coding, people can do product thinking, they can do product design. Everything is possible.
Is it are these the things that you also look in designers when you're hiring?
Of course, we are looking at how much people have experimented with AI, how good are they understanding how AI can be applied to products, how much have they experienced this new way of product development. So I think that's where we are in Microsoft, we coined this term as frontier orgs, which are basically any organization which is AI first and AI native is a frontier org, and those organizations are having less number of people to run that business, and mostly they're using AI to do every function within that business and organization. People who have experienced these kind of product building or product design would be the people we would definitely want to talk to and see if they are also interested in working with organization like us. So yeah, I think we are open, of course, that we are not saying that we are limited only to a particular person who is only done, has leveraged AI or has experimented with AI, but at large we are looking at people who would be, of course, bringing that capability which we are looking at that point of time for building a particular type of product.
I've noticed that you've been a leader for some time, leading teams. Do you think you've been seeing that any shift that you've been seeing, especially around AI, like AI taking so much? I mean, of how much people are talking about AI, and do you think when we need much lesser and lesser folks to work on projects, where does it take us? These are two different questions that I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the way individual contributors are, changing the way they are working versus, probably even experts are working on different projects and building products. I think it's a similar thing for leaders also. We have to know what is happening. We can't be, just saying that, hey, I know AI is changing the world and all that, but on a daily basis, we are spending our own time to learn and experiment on our own. We have our own projects, so we are getting our hands dirty. Versus, probably a couple of years back, you would be more in, strategic discussions and, doing people management and taking some other decisions and, probably looking at the overall processes. And but beyond that, now there's a larger responsibility of also understanding that how is AI evolving, how is that going to impact the way we work, the kind of processes we follow, the kind of efficiency we can build. We need to even reevaluate in our roles, like how is each function, be it research, be it design, be it even product management, how is it really going to change. So we have to have those discussions. Those discussions are happening to understand the landscape much better, to be prepared for it. And again, in Microsoft, we follow a great framework for managers, which is called as model, coach, and care. And if you look at model, if I am expecting my designers to, do really great at leveraging AI, then I should model that. How much am I leveraging AI to, do my work? And that's where I should be able to, inspire my team members to, do equally or probably much larger amount of leverage of AI. That's where I think modeling that aspect of, how you leveraging the new technologies comes. The second is coaching. In the current times, as you said, there's a lot of pressure on people to, do a lot more things in a much shorter time. And that's where coaching becomes very important. And that's where I think the volume of conversations have increased on, people wanting to understand that, hey, how can I do a better work-life balance? How can I, get work done in a much better way? How can I find time for myself, for learning, for experimenting? So those are the things which have also started become mainstay, challenges or conversations. And the third is care. We do care a lot about each of the team members whom we work with on a daily basis, and that's how we are also looking at that. Hey, what is it troubling them? Where is it that we can step in and ensure that we know at the right point of time where can we give them support. So all these things are superbly important. It's just that the amount or the volume of conversations or the ways in which you can now intervene is a bit changing over there. But I do acknowledge that yes, the way or the speed at which things are changing is way faster than ever. Like, as I said, looking back even at the models, you can now you see that if you give a natural language input to say that, hey, as I was giving an earlier example, that hey, help me to find probably a cab which is going to take me from point A to point B across multiple platforms, and which is the cheapest one and earliest one which is available, then I can do that by building this app just by giving a natural language prompt, and that gets built probably in 5 minutes. Probably when this whole thing got launched, that capability was not there. When OpenAI launched ChatGPT, that time those capabilities were not there. But today those capabilities are there. You can actually build it, and the model actually goes, designs it, and comes back with an output which you can actually, it's already tested by it, saying that, hey, I tested it, found bugs, I fixed them, and now this is ready for you to test it. So I think that's the change, that the model has evolved so much. It's also coming to a level where it's generating a good quality of taste. When you say that, where's taste? The taste, like a lot of times people say that, how are you going to differentiate a design generated by a designer versus a design which is generated by AI? You say taste is the difference. I think that taste is also getting developed by the model. Yeah. And that's a bit interesting as well as scary. So I do understand that, this is this is how things are changing, they are evolving. And that's really fast.
Yeah, I've been hearing this taste conversation since November 22 when ChatGPT came. And I think in a number of rooms, we were talking about that. At some point, it's gonna develop taste as well. So aren't we doing anything? Aren't we doing any product? This is other than the organization that you're a part of. Aren't we, building anything, keeping in mind the longevity of it? Or do you think it's not relevant anymore?
No, see, the pace at which the evolution is happening. When I say evolution is your end users, So business like Microsoft is especially in the enterprise world. We have products which are used by consumers also, but large business is done through enterprise products, and those enterprise products are getting changed because the businesses are also going at a rapid pace.
Yeah.
For example, if Boeing was manufacturing probably X thousand amount of airplanes in 2000, today it would have increased by a significantly large percentage, and that requires them to have those products to probably cater to those needs. Similarly, different businesses. So since the businesses are growing at a rapid pace, the product also grows at the same pace, and that means that you need to have probably larger databases to store larger database. Probably you need to have a larger model which will allow you to look at this data and use that data effectively to get your jobs done. So when I say larger model, what I meant is like a better model to look at that data and work on it. So it's not about the longevity. The product will stay, but how will the product evolve to be a different version of itself is more important. There are products which you say that, hey, this product was killed and the new product was built.
Yeah.
But there's a large knowledge about that previous product which is carried over into a new product. It might have a new interface, it might have a new set of functionalities, but it still carries a lot of knowledge about how user needs were taken care of in the previous one, and that helps in the success of the new version of the product or a totally new product.
Love that insight. And do you think, okay, we've been talking about a lot about the digital part of the world. Do you think the next thing gonna be hardware getting involved with tech? I think we're all already seeing so many robots and everything. Do you think that's wave gonna be the next one, or it's gonna just unfold itself organically?
Yeah, I'm going to say the tech and hardware coming together and giving you a different experience has been happening. Like, you see the autonomous cars, same hardware,
Yeah,
but now
yeah.
a new tech is allowing you to, get a totally different experience. Even though you can see that these autonomous cars are still meeting with accidents, but that's evolving. I mean, so you have many more, people who are making these cars, and you can see them on the road. So that's one part. But what I see is, or even when you look at the Meta's goggles, which are now available for you to use, that integration will continue. That will enrich probably the product in terms of its capability to help you to do something in a much different way, in a better way. What I feel is the pace at which this, again, I come back to the pace, because why am I saying is this, that recently there's a score called as the GPQA Diamond Score, which looks at approximately 298 questions, which are usually given to PhD level grads, and they will be able to answer those questions effectively. So that's the quality of those 290 questions which are curated. The same questions were given to different models, and on an average, like Gemini, OpenAI, or Claude, the latest version scored somewhere around more than 93%. So it's scary.
Yeah.
So where we say that singularity is not far away. So from that perspective, I see that the capability to even visualize a new product will also be a totally different capability. That, hey, can I have my spectacles to do this kind of a functionality for me? Like, can my spectacles do an X-ray of a human body? You can check that, and probably the model will allow you to build that tech also for that, probably in a much shorter time. Similarly, we are seeing applications. So we talk about a lot of applications in the digital world, but there's the AI technology also impacting the solutions which it has created in many other domains also, like the speed at which medicines are getting developed, because these models can now do testing. The testing used to take a long time to come back with those results, which could be taken further for allowing that medicine to become generally available. That timeline of developing the medicine getting shorter because of these models, which allow you to, or even developing a particular algorithm which will allow you to create a protein which would be used in a particular probably a medicine. That itself has become much easier and much faster. So these applications are changing everything, the way it was done in the past was it's now being done, or probably how it will be done in the future. So again, answering your questions, that there's no limit to how you can imagine this tech evolving into probably the digital world getting merged with the hardware.
Yeah. So this one's is a personal question that I'd like to love to know your point of view. So we are sort of like a product studio or a design studio. We I think I've also realized that in order to be top of our game, we need to constantly build up stuff. We have to constantly solve problems that are out there on our own. What do you think? And also serving bunch of enterprises, right? How do you think that we can be at the top of our game as someone who's like serving bigger organizations, or do you think it's eventually gonna become obsolete?
I wouldn't say that anything is going to be obsolete. It'll scale will change, probably the nature. Like when I started my conversation with you, you said that you're an industrial designer. Similarly, I'm an industrial designer. We learned industrial designer. We kind of probably even practiced it for a while, and that was a totally different thing than what we are doing today. I think what you should be prepared is for this evolution.
Yeah.
I think what designers are great at is problem solving. So then there are plethora of problems which are available for us to solve. If we only look at that, hey, am I going to be able to create new apps? Am I be able to build new websites or able to build new platforms or something like that? I think you should start thinking beyond that. What is it that with your knowledge and probably the capability of AI and your creativity, you can solve for probably businesses, for probably larger communities? I think that's a significant opportunity which we sit on, and especially India, where we are sitting on a huge population, 1.4 billion plus population. I think that's the bottom of the pyramid where C.K. Prahlad says that there's a fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. There's truly a fortune for creative people to solve problems at this bottom of the pyramid, because the way people are adopting technology, that pace is also very high. Like probably WhatsApp did that, social media did that. Everybody has a smartphone. Now, the moment everybody has a smartphone, what can you do with it? How can you solve, probably problems which have not been solved for many years through this? So I think those are the kind of, ideas which you will have to start toying it. And the beauty of it is that you don't need to, now take a long time to, build that idea. It's very easy and very fast to build that idea, even to test it, get it out, and probably even restart to building a new one because you realized that it was not solving the problem which you wanted to solve.
Yeah, love that take, Anand. As a as someone who's maybe knows about the problem statement, who's sitting in the front seat, how do you as an individual are consistently being creative, constantly evolving, and also being aware as to what's happening? Are you in a space where things are coming to you and you naturally are like aware of them, or is there some things that you have to follow as a leader? Just curious
I
to know
think
your.
the most precious thing of today is time. How wisely use your time defines how you're going to learn, how you're going to stay on top of things, how you're going to stay connected, and that's where I kind of make sure that I divide my time equally to to work, to learn. But I think what I do slightly differently is also to stay in touch with people beyond the people at work, to work talk to people who are probably working on music, people who are working in art, people who are probably working in architecture. Try to understand that what are they doing, what's the most interesting they are doing. Like I met one of my friends whom I used to work during my architecture internship in Bangalore after almost 30 years. He's one of the top landscape architects in Bangalore. But to meet him and understand that what's he doing, how is he doing things, it's a different insight altogether. And that kind of refreshes your ideas, the way people are doing business, the way probably a particular city is evolving, the way probably a particular domain is growing, how even the food industry, like you see, there's so many new pubs coming up in Bangalore that I would not necessarily want to go to the same place every time, to the same restaurant or the same club. Go to a new place, look what's new. I think the designers have this very unique capability, or rather most of them, of questioning everything. Like, why did this guy make this logo black? Or why does this table, have this kind of a finish? Or why does this dinner set look different than any usual dinner set? So all that is something which I think fuels more curiosity in you. Getting answers to that probably, enriches you in a very different way. And I feel, going to new places, meeting new people, traveling, I think that should be done intentionally rather than to just, from the a touristy perspective, taking 20,000 pictures and another few hundred reels. I think if you just start diving deep into, why is this like that? Why do people like this? Why do I like this? I think that's something which is going to be much more interesting to, stay on top of things and probably even stay enriched with better information.
Yeah, but do you think moving forward, it's like at any point, good work will still outperform good tools, or do you think it's a conversation that's we shouldn't be talking about because everything's gonna be done by the tools?
I see it's like tools will evolve. How you define the intent is more important. There's a handrail which is available to you. Now, whether you want to make a groove with that handrail, or you want to make a hole with it, or you want to polish a hole which you have drilled. These are creative ways of using the same drill, right? So I think that's the tool you'll get new set of tools, but how do you creatively use them? How do you first start using them, and then how do you get creative with them? How do you develop an expertise on them? I think that's going to be superbly important. It's like, what matters is like if you are a carpenter, it doesn't matter that if you have all the tools with you and all the material available with you to use it. But if you have the experience of using these tools and those materials and have not had made that connection in the past, then there's no point in, saying that, I'm in a better place, because you're not going to be able to make a good piece of furniture just because you had good tools and good material.
Yeah.
So skill is something which matters, and the intent that I can't just start building a chair. I need to know why, which chair, for whom, why am I building it, and there's an idea, and you know that why that idea is going to be great, and that's where you actually get on that journey to build a better chair.
I'm gonna end this conversation on a question and about your thoughts around like in next decade, the way we are moving. I think people are not able to plan things for the whole year. It's changing every 3 months. What do you think? What do you hope design professionals should value most that they haven't been valuing enough today?
I think for a long time, designers always had this challenge of, oh my God, I have designed such a beautiful experience, but the engineers are taking a long time to build it. I can't get it out of, the developer's machine and into the hands of the user. I think that's no more there. That barrier is no more there. You can not only, we are not saying that, hey, you're anymore a designer, but you're actually a product maker. So I think that's the difference which is there. The role is no more of a designer. You are going to evolve into a product maker. And everybody is going to evolve into this role. But how are you better at that is going to be really important. And that's where I think if a model is giving you 3 options, do you have that capability to choose the right one? That's where you become a curator. Can you curate the right things? Can you choose the best things out of, the options which you're getting from the AI model? I think that's another going to be an important skill over a period of time. That logo design used to take probably a week, or probably a month, or probably a few months, depending on who is doing it and why they're doing it and all that. But today you have a plethora of options which will be thrown at you. But what do you choose? How do you edit it? And why do you come out with the final couple of choices for the end business, or the end user whom you want to give it to? I think that's the capability of curation. That's the capability of making the right choices. So that is going to be important. And as I said, that you're not going to be just a designer. You're going to be a product maker. You'll have to build things. You can't just say that, hey, I've made the Figma. Now somebody's going to build it, and it might work, it might not work. And not understanding that how it gets built or how does it get used is not going to be an option.
Yeah. Thanks for the amazing conversation. It was one of the super insightful conversation I've had recently. And thanks a lot for hopping on the podcast.
Thank you so much. It was interesting. Thanks for the good questions and best of luck. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.